Okay, this week I'm actually going to talk about getting into hobbies and everything. Yesterday I accidentally re-uploaded an older video, so I'm kind of getting back to it today, kind of like a day later than usual. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So today, kind of going to talk about as like a slightly different setup, using hobbies to kind of like fill your time instead of going to like a cult religion. And is the concept, the overarching concept is getting around good people versus bad people. Now, and that I'm kind of basing this off like my own experiences and everything. You can well, that's just analytical, anecdotal evidence, and like I want to take that with a grain of salt and everything. Okay, fair enough. What you need to ask the question is you're going to take ask yourself this. Well, I'm talking about this. Other people are talking about the same thing. You're going to be better served by not getting into an organization like the cult of AA, where you're pretty much going to have people around you that are going to have fuck you, you're a worthless piece of shit and everything because you're an alcoholic or a drug addict and everything. Or you're going to the hobbies that I'm going to get into. You're going to get around people that, hey, look, life is good, so let's just play some cards, board games, role playing games, whatever. So I'm going to start pulling stuff from shelves and everything. So as you can see, I got quite a lot of stuff and everything. So Dungeons and Dragons, as Cat, it's coming to join us and everything. Yep, he's the star of the other videos and everything, aren't you? Yeah, you just need so much attention, and you want to be in all these videos. So here's some of the best friends you can have and everything. Yeah, you come to join us, huh? Yeah, yeah. All right, go play. Well, now that distraction's gone, getting back to Dungeons and Dragons. So this is what's known as a TTRPG, a tabletop role playing game. It's pretty much at the core of it you're acting. So you take a role of of a character, like your dwarven fighter, your elven ranger, you're like a human knight in shining armor, and you basically play like a role in what's known as a campaign. So you get at a table like this with typically 5 to 7 people and everything to play a game. You do technically need only 2 people, but it's a lot more fun if you what seems to be the good range is 5 to 7 people. Now I say 5 to 7 in that you each play a different role. One player is going to be known is getting into the role of what's known as the DM or dungeon master, and he's the one that's describing scene oh hey behind you you see a bunch of books and shelves with a bunch of books, and in the far corner you see a statue that's staring at you menacingly, and you think it might be it's a stone gargoyle, and you think it might be actually alive, but you're not 100% sure. And the DM or dungeon master explains the in a sense the scenario and the setting, and you as the players okay, well let's check this out and everything, well I want to go check that out, and you again take control of a character and surround check out the surroundings and setting that the DM is describing. And so the good range for a good group is, like I said, 5 to 7. One person, the DM, and then you have a party of 4 to 6 player characters to kind of adventure together. And so that's usually the typical good size group. Now again, I said you could do a minimum of 2, and you could have upwards of 8, 9, maybe 10 PCs. But that when you start getting a bigger group like that, you might have a longer sessions. It might take longer to run the game because you have more people getting involved. So the sweet spot usually seems to be between 4 PCs and 6 PCs. So this is one way you can end up spending a lot of time and be better served getting around people that are basically just there to have fun. Now one of the other things you can get into as I pull off a board game. So now I have a board game a beginner box of BattleTech. So this is sort of like Warhammer. like it's a board game slash war game where like you have like a bunch of miniatures. So like and you pretty much says like this does not want to open. Yep, does not want to open. Basically, like I said, we have a bunch of miniatures like this, and then like you have like some dice and some cards and stuff to kind of like explain like these miniatures, and then you're basically moving them across like a grid like this and everything. It does come with like books and stuff like that to help explain everything. So like you can get away with getting with two people with something like this and play like a board like a board game as this decided to fart. So as I'm putting it on upside down and everything. But anyway, so this board game slash war game or whatever, sort of like I said, like similar to Warhammer, is that like you could theoretically get like just one of your friends and play that and like go to like one of your local gaming stores, and then you can just like roll it, set it up, and boom, there you go, and like go at it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and so hey, look, you're spending more time than you would at an AA meeting than like the typical 1 hour, and you would be better served because like you're getting into like something like oh hey, here's something cool and everything, and of course the worst case scenario is what happens is like so the couple things I've mentioned so far and stuff I'm going to mention. The worst case scenario is you go in, you try it, hey, okay, I didn't really care for it, I'm gonna go find something else. You did end up spending time, like I said, hour and a half, 2 hours playing like a board game. Oh, and like you fill up some time and everything, and like kind of take your mind off of like getting into like the smart recovery ideas. Like you maybe like are able to help control your urges. You kind of like maybe get your mind off of stuff like that and kind of away from like going back into like negative behaviors and stuff. So that's like the overarching theme of getting into stuff like this and everything. That's why it helps. And so now, as I pull off some cards and everything, and this is another way you can do. So now I have a good old what's card game of like Magic. So this is like a Magic deck and everything. So this is like pretty much like the third thing that you can get into is card games, and like spend like again actually like a few hours playing cards and everything. So like I've recently gotten back into Magic myself and everything. So like what a lot of times on Saturdays, what I do is like I go in on Saturday evenings at like 5 o'clock, and then I'll spend like the next good like 3.5, 4 hours or so, just sitting here playing cards and everything. So now I have like several decks of these and everything. So like now they can get kind of card games, the board games, and like role playing games like this as hobbies. They can get kind of expensive because a book like this, you're looking at like $50 a pop for like these rule books. Decks like this, a lot of times, especially when they first come out, like there's like pre-cons or pre-constructed decks and everything they can get, and they're usually running like around $100 and everything. So like you can get some older ones probably for like 40 or $50, but you kind of like might be turned off on like the price or whatever. So again, if you're just getting into it, like go in and like ask and be like the people around, like, hey, look, I'm looking to get into this, and like the people like are they 99.9% of the time, people will have multiple decks for you. And like, hey, look, this is my first game of Magic and everything. They'll be like, oh, hey, here's an easy deck that you can kind of use, and like they'll sit there and help you like play the game and like teach you like, okay, this is like this kind of card. You use that to do this, and like they'll help explain the rules. And over the course of like the next like with me going in Saturday, next 3-4 hours, just sit there and teach you. And like worst case scenario, like especially like again something like this, you go in and you try it, you spend 3-4 hours, okay, it's not for me, and then you like go on to the next thing and try it, and kind of like find out like what you want to do for like a hobby and everything, and like kind of like spend your free time on the weekend. So that way like you can try stuff for free, so you don't necessarily have to spend money, and then like maybe like money's tight and everything, so you do best case scenario, you do get into it, and like maybe you get one of the older decks, like I mentioned, like using this as an example. You spend 40-50 bucks on a deck, and then like you start playing with that one, and then like you can maybe start like trying to do like a trading or get some maybe like cheap bulk cards, because like a lot of times like uh, bulk cards were like that are pretty common. What you can get is like usually like a lot of them for like less than $1 and everything, and start getting a bunch like maybe spend 20 bucks and get like 200-300 cards and everything to be able to put in that like a pre-constructed deck that you got, and kind of like try and tweak it, and like, okay, well, I'm trying to learn these different abilities and trying to like learn this and that and everything. So like maybe for like 60 bucks if you do get into it, you can start building yourself up and everything. And so like and of course you could also, what's great about having a community like this is like people are going to be willing to trade and stuff and everything. Like, hey, look, I got like some of these cards. Like, do you mind if I trade like and some of these bulks for maybe that card or whatever? Or like they might be nice enough and like, okay, here's a card I don't use and everything that could be helpful for that deck you just got and everything. And so you build up like a positive community around you, versus, again, to kind of end this real quick, you're building up that positive community by getting into stuff like this and those board games and everything, as that was backwards, versus like where a cult, you go into like an AA meeting, you get trapped in there, and you're going to be around people that are going to be like, well, like I said, fuck you, you're a worthless piece of shit and everything, because you're an alcoholic and everything. So I'm going to tell you again, or ask you again, would you rather be around people that are going to be like, hey, yeah, this great game's awesome, here you go, let's just help you build you up and everything, and get you into this and everything, and then having fun time and or are you going to want to be around people that are going to have that like I said, fuck you, you're a worthless piece of shit attitude, and they're going to constantly like treat you that way? So this is a way for you to get into like hobbies and stuff, and use it as like a positive community instead of like a negative community versus the AA community.